Would you point the court to that particular paragraph?
114, paragraph.
Who was assisting these voters?
There was a person who was assigned. They were coming outside with a person who was assigned to come and assist them. Even if you know how to write, yes. There was a person who was accompanying you so that you vote in his presence, so that they report somebody that indeed he has elected somebody, a certain candidate.
You understand, Mr. Witness, that before the elections, there is always an induction process that takes place, correct? Parties are taken through the whole process of the election, what they expect at the polling station, correct? Are you aware whether or not in a polling station there ought to be maintained a polls days diary?
Yes.
Where these incidences are supposed to be recorded, correct?
Yes.
Are you aware whether or not these incidences were recorded in that polls days diary?
No.
If you want to know whether these incidences were recorded, what would you wish the court to do?
If they were not recorded, I think we can only do a recount of votes, ascertain the number of votes that were cast.
Number two, in respect to the voters' days diary, the polls days diary, did you bring them before the court, the polls days diary? Do you have them before the court? You don't have them, correct?
Yes.
Who is the custodians of those polls days diary?
The IBC.
The IBC. Let me rephrase the question again. How are you able to tell whether or not these incidences were recorded on the polls days diary? Utaweza kueleza vipi ya kwamba hizi matukio yaliweza kunakiliwa katika kile kitabu?
Can't tell.
You can't tell. Basi unakumbuka ulikuwa na ombi hapa mahakamani ambapo ulikuwa unaomba mahakama iweze kuchunguza kupitia njia ya scrutiny ya ile polls diary. Unakumbuka?
Yes.
Ile ombi bado uko nalo mpaka sasa hivi?
Uko nalo.
Je, katika hii maneno ya Kimskit unaweza kudhibitisha kwamba kana kwamba kila mtu aliweza kupitia katika ile Kimskit? Are you able to confirm whether all voters were verified and okayed by the Kimskit?
No.
If you want to confirm whether all voters were verified and okayed by the Kimskit, what would you wish the court to do for you?
At least a recount of votes, so that anyone who passed through the Kimskit vis-a-vis the votes in the box, they should match.
Have you made an application before this court for the scrutiny of the Kimskit?
Yes.
Would you still wish to maintain that prayer?
Yes.
For example, you spoke about the Kimskit in specific polling stations, you remember?
Yes.
What is your evidence about those particular Kimskit and in which polling station?
One is Gachagua Social Hall.
Gachagua Social Hall.
Yes.
What is your issue of the Kimskit in that particular polling station?
Because there were two persons who were allowed to vote and they were not cleared on the Kimskit.
There were two people who were allowed to vote and
yes.
were not cleared by the Kimskit.
Yes.
Are you able to tell whether those are the only individuals who voted or there could be others who voted through that system?
There could have been others, because in the absence of a manual register, anyone could have voted.
Is that therefore the reason why you would wish the court to order for the scrutiny of those particular polling stations?
Yes.
You recall you indicated that there were issues of the police, correct?
Yeah.
Who was in control of these police officers? Is it the IBC or the IG? From whom were they taking command from?
Police officers during that day could take command even from the state officers.
The state officers. Would you kindly specify the state officers in this respect?
There are the CS.
Which CS in particular did you witness or your agents witnessed commanding the police?
The CS Roko.
CS Roko. Were these police officers in a particular ward, concentrated in a particular ward, or were they widespread?
Widespread.
Would you give an approximate how many police officers were in each and every polling station, if you may remember?
There were those police officers in uniform, but then there were those police officers who are not in uniform.
Yes.
Most of police officers in uniform, only that they could act only on orders. But
it's okay. I abandon that. I want to abandon that line. I want to actually abandon it. Your objection will have no meaning there. Did you confirm whether or not these instances of violence were recorded in the post days diary?
They were not.
If you would wish to confirm whether they were recorded in the post days diary, what is the best way to do that issue? What's the best way of confirming whether or not they were recorded?
I don't believe the witness has said that was not recorded. He has said that the violence is not recorded in the post diaries.
Is that a situation that you would wish to confirm right now, or you'd wish to have the scrutiny of the post days diary ordered by this court?
Yes.
And what was the difference between your votes and the winner's votes?
Around 460.
Sorry?
460.
460. 469.
Yeah.
Would I be correct to say that the margin is so small between the winner and yourself?
Yes, it is.
Do you have evidence or witnesses that you have lined up to come and confirm all these incidences of violence before this court?
Yes, they are there.
For example, in respect to the issue of category, where we have just watched a clip, have you lined up any witness to come and testify to that effect?
Yes, they are there.
Do you recall that the court directed that the materials be stocked within the prison of the court?
Yes.
My Lord, with your kind permission, I don't think we have seen any clip on Gitibori, so I think the question is misleading.
Not correct. The clip, what clips have you watched? Is there a clip of Gitibori? Have you watched one?
No.
So then I refuse, my Lord. But the clip on the violence, the gentleman with the man with the hand. So that was Kanyambora, correct?
That was Kaungo.
Kaungo.
Yes.
Thank you for the correction, my Lord. The mayor for rephrase the question. Yes, my Lord. And thank you. We'll enjoy with his, the benefit from his knowledge. May I rephrase that question? Which polling station was the clip, does that clip relate to?
Which clip?
The clip with the gentleman who says he was shot.
That was Kaungo.
Kaungo. Have you summoned or invited any witness to testify to that effect?
Yes, they are there.
Was that a one occasion, or the violence was widespread within that particular polling station?
Violence was widespread even in other polling stations.
What was so unique about this? Is there anything that was so unique about this violence?
The one at Kaungo?
No, the entire violence they've described.
Yeah, the unique thing with this violence is that mostly this violence was caused by the state officers. Whenever state officers came in, there was violence.
There was violence. Did that violence, in your knowledge, affect the whole process of the elections, and if yes, how?
Yes, it could affect them because one, it was creating fear. Because those voters who would want maybe to come and vote afterwards, some would keep away. And again, number two, that violence could create room to stop votes.
As I finalize, geographically, do you come from the same region with the fourth respondent in terms of words?
No.
Which word does he?
He comes from Ndegwa, I come from Momenji.
He comes from?
Ndegwa, what?
Yes.
I come from Momenji.
He comes from Njiru. And how, in those two particular words, how was violence manifested?
In fact, violence was mostly seen in Ndegwa ward and parts of Irregularities.
Parts of Irregularities
And Ndegwa ward.
Who was the beneficiary of this violence?
The fourth respondent.
The fourth respondent. You have no further questions?
Just 2 or 3 questions. My name is Gachagua. And Newton, I'd just like to clarify a few things that I would like some clarity on. You have talked at length about state officers being involved in this election. And at some point you mentioned a name in that context, CS Wahome. I didn't get anything more than that. Who is that?
CS Wahome, this is a report that I got from my agents, and which also we have witnesses.
Or do you have full names, or who is this person who we call CS Wahome?
Unless I refer, I don't know the full names.
But in the context of being a state officer, what state office does this person hold?
She's a cabinet secretary.
She's a cabinet secretary. Yes. You know her other name?
Unless I refer to Your Honor.
Okay. CS is a cabinet secretary called Wahome. I don't believe we have to. You also mentioned another person called...
She is Honorable Alice Wahome.
Honorable Alice Wahome.
Yes. Cabinet Secretary in charge of lands, public works, housing and urban development.
Thank you. You also mentioned the Member of Parliament for Runyeges. That's how you left it. Who is that?
That is Honorable Mushani.
Do you know the two names already?
But popularly known as Karemba.
Honorable Mushangi.
Information was getting it from my agents at Kaungu.
I'm just concerned about the names. So, is the Member of Parliament for Runyeges called Karemba? Mushangi Karemba.
Mushani Karemba.
You also talked about someone called Honorable Wamombi. Again, who is that?
Honorable Eric Wamombi, a member of the UNDA and from Madeira constituency.
Is a Member of Parliament for Madeira constituency. Thank you. Did you also mention the governor? You mentioned the word governor.
Yeah, I mentioned the one governor.
The governor for which county?
The governor for Embu County.
Governor for Embu County. And her name?
Honorable Cecily Barire.
Honorable Cecily Barire. And my question then arises from those 4 names that you have given. To the best of your knowledge, are they voters in Berry North constituency? Or is any one of them a voter in Berry North constituency?
We are not voters save for one of them.
And as a candidate and a person who has been in this constituency, were you made aware whether any of them was an official of IEBC during these elections?
No.
Would you know whether they were an agent of any of the candidates? Firstly, was any of them your agent?
They were not my agents, but they were agents of my opponent.
They were agents?
Of my opponent.
You sure about that?
Yes, because they were campaigning for him.
Can I clarify that question? Are you asking about formal agents?
Yes, yes.
Recognized by EBC or agents who hold our president?
Yes, ma'am, and thank you so much for that, because I was to do a follow-up question. And Newton, I want to put it this way. There are those agents whose names who got appointment letters to be agents of a candidate or a party. Would you know whether any of them had such a letter for purposes of this by-election?
I don't think.
You don't think so? And as a candidate, were you ever informed of any role that these four individuals were to play in these by-elections?
Not at all.
I want to come to a polling station called Gitivuri polling station.
Yes.
You said there was chaos. I don't want to take you through that again. So Gitivuri is a primary school, right?
Yeah.
Does it have more than one polling stations?
It's on double street.
Sorry?
Double street. Polling station 1 and 2.
It has 2 polling stations. You must be aware that counting and tallying is done per polling station.
Yes.
Is that what happened in this polling center?
No.
What happened?
When violence erupted, they tried an attempt to save the votes, and then they were abandoned somewhere in a car which was parked within the compound. Later, when they were brought back, they were counted in polling station number 2, all of them, supervised by the Smiths. Minus our agents.
Number 2, stream 2.
Yes.
So is it then your evidence that no counting took place in polling station number 1? What used to be called stream 1?
Yes.
And you also mentioned that CS Ruku was present during this incident?
Yes, he was.
Same question I put to you, both the other persons. Was he an official in this election?
He wasn't.
Was he an agent of any candidate or party?
I don't think so.
You don't
Maybe
think
a
so?
voter.
Maybe a voter. And when this violence broke out, was there any voting that was taking place? At the time this violence broke out, was it past the voting hours or was it during the voting hours?
It was past the 14 hours. It was past the 14 hours. They were about to start the counting of votes.
Sorry?
They were about to start the counting of votes.
So there was no one on the queue? And in this particular polling station, was there any violence during the time the voting was taking place?
No.
And just the last one, just a follow-up one. And I'll ask about another polling station called Kaungu. You mentioned Kaungu, so that you don't confuse the two. Kaungu polling station. You said there was violence also?
Yeah, there was violence.
During voting or during polling?
During 14.
During voting.
Yes. In fact, 14 was disrupted and then turned to resume later.
It was disrupted.
Yes.
Finally, if you say that you want to use Gagara and maybe other instances that may have happened, you said that there are people who were not identified through KIMS. Did you see yourself, anybody voting without being identified through KIMS?
That was not Gangara.
It was
the issue of Gangara is that there was very high turnout of assistant voters.
Assistant voters. Okay.
That was by 11 there was no forms. Gangara pregnancy. But it was at Shiakawa Social Hall, where 2 persons were allowed to vote.
Yes.
Without being identified with the kids.
Without being identified as KIMS. Okay. Did you also say that there are people who were not eligible to vote in Benin North, but nonetheless they voted?
Yes, it could have happened because.
Or it could have, not that you are aware.
It could have happened because a case in Mondo.
In Mondo?
Yes.
Mondo polling station?
Mondo polling station. In Mondo polling station, there is a person who voted and he was not registered in Mondo, but somewhere in Kiambu.
A voter in Kiambu voted in
He was allowed
Mondo?
to vote. You have evidence here.
Oh. You have the particulars of that person? Maybe you can assist the court by pointing out the paragraph in your affidavit. running because the speed at which we trace the
Case, Council.
yeah.
You are still on the case. The time runs.
So maybe